I've always been the responsible one. The practical one, the one who thinks things through. My name is Chloe, and for the past 5 years, I've been living what most would consider a successful life, great job in a neighboring state, company-provided housing, and enough income to help others. But success doesn't always mean happiness, especially when family is involved. Growing up, I watched my parents shower my older sister Sarah with attention and love. She was their golden child, their perfect firstborn, who could do no wrong. While I studied hard and planned for my future, Sarah floated through life on charm and our parents' endless indulgence. Don't get me wrong, I loved my sister, but I always knew where I stood in the family hierarchy. Every other weekend, I make the drive back home to visit my parents. It's become a routine over the past 5 years, finish work on Friday, pick up some thoughtful gifts from the shops near my apartment, and head to their house. Sometimes I wonder why I keep doing it, but then I remember the loan. That cursed wedding loan that changed everything. 7 years ago, Sarah announced she was getting married to some rich guy she'd been dating. Instead of the reasonable wedding I suggested, she wanted something extravagant, way beyond our family's means. I still remember that evening when my parents told me about their plans to take out a loan for her wedding. "Mom, Dad, this is crazy," I said, sitting at our kitchen table. "Why can't Sarah take out the loan herself if she wants such an expensive wedding?" Mom's face tightened the way it always did when I questioned anything about Sarah. "Your sister has some issues with her credit history. The banks won't give her a loan right now." "Then maybe she should have a smaller wedding," I suggested, already knowing the answer. "Mind your own business, Chloe," Mom snapped. "This is about your sister's special day, don't be selfish." That was the word they always used when I tried to be the voice of reason, selfish. Dad just sat there, nodding along with Mom like he always did when it came to Sarah. I knew right then how it would all play out, but I had no idea just how bad things would get. Looking back now, I realize that weekend visit routine I maintained wasn't just about being a good daughter, it was about trying to fix what Sarah broke. Every 2 weeks, I'd pack up some small gifts, drive to their house, and pretend everything was normal. Pretend I didn't resent being the only one holding our family together financially. But last Friday, everything changed. I pulled up to their house like I always did, arms full of the usual thoughtful little presents I'd picked up. The moment I walked through that door, my whole world shifted. There, sitting in our living room like she'd never left, was Sarah. And she wasn't alone, 2 small children I'd never met were playing at her feet. The sight of them hit me like a physical blow. My sister, who'd disappeared from our lives without a trace, who'd blocked me on every social media platform, who'd ignored every email I'd sent about the loan, she was just sitting there, acting like nothing had ever happened. And our parents? They were beaming at her like she was the prodigal daughter returned from war, not someone who'd abandoned them to financial ruin. "Oh, hey Chloe," Sarah said casually, as if we'd seen each other yesterday. Then she turned toward the kitchen and shouted, "Mom, I'm starving. Is my favorite dish ready yet?" I stood in the doorway, gifts growing heavy in my arms, watching my parents' faces light up at Sarah's demanding tone. Some things, it seemed, never changed. But others were about to change in ways none of us could have predicted. Dinner that night was surreal. Mom bustled around the kitchen, preparing Sarah's favorite dishes while my small gifts sat forgotten on the side table. Dad couldn't stop grinning as he watched his grandchildren, my niece and nephew, I guess, playing in the living room. They were cute kids, about 5 and 3 years old, but I couldn't help feeling bitter that I'd never even known they existed until now. So, I finally broke the uncomfortable silence as we sat around the dining table. "What made you decide to come back, Sarah?" She shrugged, shoveling another forkful of food into her mouth. "Just missed Mom and Dad, that's all." Her tone was casual, as if she hadn't ghosted us all for 5 years. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "Does this mean you're finally going to help pay back the loan they took out for your wedding?" The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Sarah's face flushed red with anger, but before she could respond, Mom jumped in. "Chloe, this isn't the time to talk about money," she scolded. Can't we just be happy that the family is finally together again? I wanted to scream. The family is together again? What about the past 5 years when I was the only one helping them stay afloat? Every month, without fail, I'd been sending $1,500 to cover their bills and groceries because they couldn't manage after paying Sarah's wedding loan. But sure, let's not talk about money. The rest of the weekend passed like I was invisible. Mom and Dad spent every moment doting on Sarah and the kids, while I might as well have been a piece of furniture. Before leaving on Sunday, I caught Sarah alone in the kitchen. "How long are you planning to stay?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Oh, not long," she said, waving her hand dismissively. "Mark's waiting for me back home. We just needed a little vacation." Mark, her rich husband who supposedly controlled all their money so tightly that she couldn't help pay back the loan her own parents had taken out for her wedding. The same parents who were now acting like she was some kind of returning hero. As I drove back to my apartment that evening, my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. "Sarah sent us pictures of her beautiful house. You should see their kitchen, it's gorgeous." I gripped the steering wheel tighter, fighting the urge to reply with what I was really thinking. Maybe she could sell that gorgeous house and pay you back for her wedding. But I stayed silent. I always stayed silent. The next 2 weeks would bring a flood of calls from Mom, each one gushing about Sarah, her house, her clothes, her children. Every conversation felt like a knife twisting in my gut. The daughter who'd abandoned them was suddenly the star of every story, while I, the one who'd been supporting them for years, barely got a mention. When I arrived at my parents' house that next weekend, something felt off, before I even opened the door. Mom and Dad's cars were in the driveway, but they didn't come to greet me like usual. Instead, I found them sitting in the living room, looking troubled. "What's wrong?" I asked, setting down my purse. "Did something happen?" Mom barely looked at me. "Sarah and the kids will be here soon. They're staying for a few days, we need to prepare the house." I forced myself to take a deep breath. "Okay, but please don't touch my room. I need somewhere to stay when I visit." I looked directly at Mom. "Promise me you won't give away my room." "Of course not, sweetheart," Mom said, crossing her heart. "I promise." The next 2 months flew by in a blur of work. I landed a massive project that demanded all my attention, earning praise from my boss but leaving little time for family visits. My calls with Mom became shorter and more distanced. She was busy too, though I'd later learn what that really meant. Finally, after successfully completing the project and receiving a nice bonus, I decided to surprise my parents with an extended visit. I splurged on gifts, a high-end coffee machine for Mom and a premium tool set for Dad. After 2 months away, I was actually looking forward to spending time with them. The moment I walked through the door that Friday evening, I knew something was terribly wrong. Sarah's kids' toys were scattered everywhere. Mom's face went pale when she saw me. "Chloe, what are you doing here?" The question hit me like a slap. "I came to visit." Like I had been for the past 5 years? "Oh," Mom replied, looking uncomfortable, "we weren't expecting you." Sarah emerged from the kitchen, smirking. When I presented the gifts to our parents, she rolled her eyes. "Always trying to show off, aren't you, Chloe?" I ignored her and asked pointedly, "When are you heading back home?" Sarah's smirk widened. "I'm not, Mark and I are divorced, this is home now." The coffee machine nearly slipped from my hands. Divorced? The supposedly perfect marriage that had justified all those loans and sacrifices was over? And she was moving back in with our parents, who hadn't even finished paying for her wedding? But the worst was yet to come. After dinner, I headed toward my room, only to be stopped by Mom's nervous voice. "Honey, about your room." We gave it to Sarah, and we turned her old room into a nursery for the kids. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. "You promised," I whispered, "you promised you wouldn't touch my room." "Don't be so dramatic," Dad cut in, "we cleared out the storage closet for you. Put a bed in there and everything." A closet. They had moved me to a closet to make room for the daughter who had abandoned them. The daughter whose debt they were still paying off. The daughter I had been supporting them to support. A closet? My voice came out eerily calm. You're moving me to a closet after I've been helping you pay bills for 5 years? I turned to my sister. What about work? How are you planning to contribute to the household? Sarah lounged on what used to be my bed, examining her manicured nails. I don't need to work. Mark's paying good alimony, enough for me and the kids. And what about mom and dad's expenses? I pressed. The utilities for 3 more people? The groceries? The loan they're still paying off for your wedding? Mom and dad don't mind covering that, Sarah shrugged. Right? Our parents nodded quickly, like bobbleheads on a dashboard. I felt sick watching them. They don't mind because I've been sending them $1,500 every month, I said through gritted teeth. Money that's apparently been supporting you now too. Dad's face darkened. That's enough, Chloe, you're being selfish and arrogant. The closet is perfectly fine for your visits. Selfish? I laughed bitterly. I'm selfish for sending you money every month while she, I pointed at Sarah, disappeared for 5 years after sticking you with her wedding loan? We're tired of your tantrums, Mom snapped. If you can't accept this situation, maybe you should leave. Sarah's smug smile was the last straw. I looked at their faces, my father's stern disapproval, my mother's dismissive anger, my sister's entitled satisfaction, and something inside me finally broke. Without another word, I turned and walked out. Not just out of the room, or out of the house, but out of their lives. They didn't try to stop me. Back in my apartment, I opened a bottle of wine and pulled up my banking app. The monthly transfer to my parents' account stared back at me, $1,500, scheduled to go out in 3 days. My finger hovered over the cancel button. All these years, I'd been the responsible one. The good daughter. The one who helped without complaining. And what had it gotten me? A closet to sleep in and a family that preferred the daughter who'd abandoned them. I took another sip of wine and thought about all the times I'd bitten my tongue. All the times I'd sent money while Sarah lived in her beautiful house, showing off her perfect life on social media. All the times my parents had dismissed my concerns and catered to her whims. The choice was clear. With a decisive tap, I canceled the recurring transfer. Let Sarah help them now. Let her deal with the utility bills and grocery runs. Let her face the reality of the debt she'd dumped on our parents. I was done being the family ATM. A month passed in complete silence. No calls from Mom about Sarah's latest purchases. No messages about the grandchildren's cute antics. Nothing. I threw myself into work, trying to ignore the hollow feeling in my chest. But I couldn't completely disconnect. Social media became my window into their world, a window that showed me exactly where I stood. Mom's Facebook page was filled with photos, my beloved daughter and her beautiful children. Sarah and Mom baking cookies. Sarah and Dad at the park with the kids. Happy family moments that didn't include me. Each post was like a knife twist, but I refused to look away. I needed the reminder of why I'd made my decision. Then came the call I'd been expecting. Why hasn't the money come through? Mom demanded without even a hello. Her voice was sharp, accusatory. I kept my voice steady. I canceled the transfers. The silence on the other end lasted so long, I thought she'd hung up. Then, you what? I canceled them, I repeated, I'm not going to help anymore. You can't do that, Mom's voice rose to a shriek. We need that money. How could you be so selfish? I almost laughed at the familiar accusation. Selfish? I've been supporting you for 5 years, while Sarah lived in her fancy house and posted pictures of her shopping sprees. Let her help you now. She has children to take care of, Mom's voice cracked with anger. You ungrateful little, after everything we've done for you. Done for me? Now I did laugh. Like moving me into a closet? Or taking out a loan for Sarah's wedding that you're still paying off? Or maybe you mean ignoring me for the past 5 years unless you needed money? You're just jealous of your sister, Mom spat. You always have been. You're being cruel, Anne. I hung up, my hands were shaking, but not from guilt. For the first time in years, I felt in control. The text messages started almost immediately. Sarah's came first. You jealous thing. You've always hated that Mom and Dad love me more. You're just bitter and mean. I deleted it without responding. Dad's message was shorter. Your mother is crying because of you. I hope you're happy. Happy wasn't the word. Tired, maybe. Tired of being the family's backup plan. Tired of watching them prioritize Sarah, no matter how many times she let them down. More messages followed, each one more desperate or angry than the last. I read them all but responded to none. Let them feel what it was like to be ignored for a change. A week later, my phone rang again. Mom's number. Hello, sweetheart, she said, her voice honey-sweet. We miss you. Won't you come visit? In the closet, I asked dryly. We could make up the couch, she offered, trailing off uncertainly. No thanks. Please, Chloe, her voice changed, became pleading. We're struggling without your help, the bills are piling up, Anne. That's not my problem anymore, I cut her off. You chose this when you kicked me out of my room for Sarah, again. Mom started crying over the phone, those manipulative sobs I'd heard so many times before when she wanted something. You're being so cruel, Chloe. We're your parents, we need help with the bills, the loan payments. The loan payments for Sarah's wedding, I reminded her. The wedding she stuck you with and never helped pay for. Why don't you ask her for help? She has children to support, Mom's voice turned shrill again. With Mark's alimony, I countered. The alimony she brags about but won't share with you. Face it, Mom, she's using you again, and you're letting her. That's not true, she's changed. I shook my head, even though she couldn't see me. No, she hasn't, but I have. I hung up again, blocking their numbers this time. I was done with the guilt trips, done with the manipulation, done with being the family's financial safety net while being treated like an unwanted houseguest. That night, I opened my laptop and started researching housing options. The money I'd been sending my parents each month would make a decent down payment on my own place. It was time to invest in my future instead of subsidizing their poor choices. A week later, Sarah somehow got through to me using a different number. You're killing them, you know, she said, her voice dripping with accusation. They can barely afford groceries now. Funny how that wasn't your concern when you stuck them with your wedding loan, I replied. Or when you disappeared for 5 years. That was different, she practically shouted. I had problems with Mark. And now you have alimony, I cut her off, use it to help them. That's for me and my kids. And their money is for you and your kids too, right? Just like their house and my room? The bitterness in my voice surprised even me. You know what's really killing them, Sarah? You are. You always have been, you just never had to face it because I was cleaning up your messes. You're just jealous, because they love me more, she spat. I laughed, genuinely laughed. You're right, they do love you more. They always have, and they always will. But love doesn't pay the bills, does it? That was my job, and I quit. I hung up and blocked her new number too. Let her figure out how to support herself for once. Let her learn what it means to be an adult. My real estate agent called that afternoon, she'd found a perfect condo within my price range. As I scheduled a viewing, I realized I felt lighter than I had in years. The weight of my family's expectations, their constant demands, their perpetual favoritism, it was all falling away. I was no longer the responsible one who had to fix everything. No longer the second-best daughter who had to accept whatever scraps of attention they deigned to give me. I was just Chloe. And for the first time in my life, that felt like enough. Word travels fast in families, even when you're not speaking to them directly. My cousin Emma called me one evening, her voice hesitant. I thought you should know, she said. Your mom's been telling everyone that you abandoned them. That you're punishing them for helping Sarah in her time of need. I snorted. Is that what they're calling it now? Helping Sarah? They're working double shifts, Emma continued. Your dad's exhausted. Sarah's still not working, just spending her alimony on shopping and fancy lunches with friends. And the kids? Emma sighed. Your parents are basically raising them while Sarah goes out. She says she's healing from her trauma or something. Same old Sarah, different excuse. You know what's funny? I said, staring out my apartment window. For 5 years, I sent them money every month. I visited twice a month. I was there for every holiday, every birthday. But the moment Sarah showed up, I became disposable. They literally put me in a closet, Emma. I know, she said softly, it's not right. No, it's not, but it's not my problem anymore. After hanging up, I went to look at the condo again. It was perfect, 2 bedrooms, a modern kitchen, and most importantly, it was mine. No family drama, no guilt trips, no being shifted to a closet to make room for someone else. I made an offer that evening. The next day, Mom somehow got through to me using Dad's work phone. Your father's back is getting worse from all the extra shifts, she said, not bothering with a greeting. We really need your help, Chloe. What about Sarah's help? I asked. Is she still going out shopping while you two work yourselves to death? Mom's silence was answer enough. You know, I continued, I just put an offer on a condo. The down payment is coming from the money I used to send you. The money you used to support Sarah and her kids, while treating me like an unwanted guest. How can you be so heartless? Mom's voice cracked. We're your parents. Yes, you are, and Sarah's my sister. But I'm done being the family bank while you treat me like I don't matter. Of course you matter, Mom protested. We love you. No, Mom, you love what I could do for you. There's a difference. I could hear her starting to cry again, but this time it didn't affect me. I'd grown immune to the manipulation. I have to go, I said, I have a meeting with my real estate agent. Please, Chloe, she begged, we can work something out. We can put a real bed in the living room for when you visit. Goodbye, Mom. As I ended the call, my phone buzzed with a message from my agent. The sellers had accepted my offer. I was going to be a homeowner. I looked around my apartment, thinking about all the weekends I hadn't spent here, because I was at my parents' house. All the money I hadn't saved, because I was supporting them. All the times I'd put my life on hold to be their backup plan. Time has a way of putting things in perspective. From my new condo's balcony, I can see the city skyline, a view I'd never have if I was still sending my money to support Sarah's lifestyle. The mortgage payments are manageable, and for the first time in my adult life, I'm investing in my own future instead of paying for my sister's past. Emma keeps me updated on the family situation, though I never ask. Sarah's still living with our parents, spending her alimony on designer clothes and spa days, while throwing occasional scraps toward her kids' expenses. Mom and Dad are working extra shifts at their jobs, their faces showing the strain of supporting 3 additional people well into what should have been their easier years. They finally paid off Sarah's wedding loan, the debt that started this whole mess. The irony isn't lost on me that they finished paying for a marriage that didn't even last. I heard Mom told Aunt Julie that they could finally breathe easier, but then immediately complained about how their ungrateful younger daughter had abandoned them in their time of need. Your mom was showing everyone pictures of Sarah and the kids at Sunday dinner, Emma told me during our last phone call. She kept saying how at least one of her daughters still cares about family. I just smiled. How nice for her. Don't you want to tell them about your new place? Emma asked. Show them you're doing well? No, I replied firmly. They don't get to be part of this. They don't get to see what I built for myself after they tried to stuff me in a closet. I haven't given anyone my new address, and I plan to keep it that way. I can just imagine their reactions, Mom's thinly veiled criticism about how I must think I'm better than everyone else now, Dad's disapproving frown, Sarah's jealous comments about how I'm showing off. They'd find a way to make my success about them, about how I should be using my money to help family instead of living in a nice place. But I don't care anymore. Let them talk, let them complain to relatives about their cruel, selfish daughter who refused to keep subsidizing their poor choices. Let them work those extra shifts while Sarah lounges around their house, playing the poor divorced mother role to perfection. Sometimes, when I'm sitting on my balcony with a glass of wine, watching the sunset over the city, I think about that storage closet they tried to move me into. It was their final gift to me, really, the push I needed to break free. To stop accepting scraps of their attention while giving them everything I had.